I always thought my marriage was safe. Not perfect. Not glamorous. Just steady. Dependable. Predictable in the way people settle into routines when they trust each other completely. My name is Hannah Lawson, I'm 34, and until a few months ago I was married to Mark Lawson, a 36-year-old man who, for most of our relationship, convinced me he was honest and responsible. We lived, in Denver, Colorado, in a modest 2-bedroom home with navy shutters and a cracked front walkway Mark always promised he'd fix. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We both worked full-time, paid our bills on time, put money away for emergencies, vacations, and future plans that now feel like someone else's dreams. I trusted him with everything, including our savings. I handled day-to-day bills, groceries, and budgeting. He managed long-term savings and investments. We split responsibilities because that's how partnerships work. Or so I thought. Everything began to unravel 6 months ago. I woke up at around 3 a.m. because I saw a glow coming from the living room. Mark wasn't beside me in bed, which wasn't unusual. He struggled with insomnia, but the light flickering under the door made me uneasy. When I walked into the hallway, I saw him hunched over his laptop at the dining table. He didn't hear me at first. His shoulders were tense, jaw clenched, rubbing his temples like he was trying not to cry. "Mark?" I whispered. He flinched so hard he nearly dropped the laptop. "Oh, hey. Didn't mean to wake you." His voice cracked. I stepped closer. "Are you okay?" He swiped quickly at the screen, like he was hiding something, but forced a smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Yeah. Work stuff. Go back to bed." Something felt wrong. Not long day at work wrong. Not I'm stressed wrong. More like, there's a secret here and you're not supposed to find out. But I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I just kissed the top of his head and went back to bed, leaving him alone with whatever was weighing him down. Over the next few days, Mark became distant. Quiet. Fidgety. He avoided eye contact when he usually held it. He canceled dinner plans with my sister. He paced at night. His phone was always face down. He wasn't cheating, not in the traditional sense. But something was happening. 2 weeks later, while paying monthly bills, I logged into our joint savings like I always do. The number should have been there. Comforting. Stable. Predictable. Instead, it was significantly lower. $23,000 missing. My hands went numb. For a few seconds, I genuinely thought the bank app malfunctioned. I refreshed the page. Same number. Refreshed again. Still the same. Mark had full access to the account. He transferred funds occasionally for investments, but never without mentioning it, and never without both of us agreeing. So I checked the transaction history. And that's when my stomach dropped. Over the course of 8 months, he had been transferring money, hundreds at first, then thousands, into a separate account I didn't recognize. The transfer descriptions were generic. Contribution. Support. Transfer. Nothing helpful. Nothing honest. I stared at the screen in disbelief. My first thought was identity theft. Maybe someone hacked him? Maybe the account wasn't his? But then I noticed something. Every transfer happened late at night. Right around the same time the glow from the living room had woken me up. My pulse pounded in my throat. Mark came home from work an hour later. I showed him the bank app immediately. Where did the money go? He froze. Not the freeze of confusion. The freeze of guilt. He opened his mouth twice before anything came out. Hannah. I was going to tell you. I felt sick. Tell me what? My voice cracked. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing, panicking, then finally blurted. It's for my mom. I blinked. Your mom? Yes. He nodded quickly. She needed help. A lot of help. His mother, Linda, lived 2 states away in Idaho. She was a widow, retired, and in decent health. She didn't live extravagantly, but she was stable. Mark and his mom talked often, but never once had he mentioned she needed money. Certainly not thousands. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, trying to stay calm. He swallowed. "Because you'd say no." And just like that, my world tilted. He wasn't apologetic. He wasn't explaining. He wasn't remorseful. He was defensive. Angry even. "I didn't want to fight about it," he added. "I didn't want you telling me what I could do with my own money." His own money? It was a joint account. Our savings. Years of work. My voice trembled. "It's not just your money, Mark." He rolled his eyes. Actually rolled his eyes. "She's my mother. What was I supposed to do? Let her struggle?" I asked him the obvious question. "So what exactly is she struggling with?" He hesitated. Too long. Way too long. Finally he muttered something I'll never forget. "She didn't want you to know." That sentence cracked everything open. His mother didn't want me to know? Why? What was she hiding? What was he hiding? Before I could even ask, Mark stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. He locked it. From inside, I heard him say, "Just give me some space." I stood in the hallway frozen, staring at the door, clutching my phone with the bank app still open. $23,000. Gone. Vanished into a secret account. Given to someone who didn't want me to know I existed in the equation. I stood there in the hallway for a long time, staring at the closed bedroom door, unable to move or think clearly. The house felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were leaning in, waiting for something to explode. Mark stayed in the bedroom for over an hour. When he finally came out, he acted like I was the one who had caused the tension. He walked past me without looking at me and grabbed a glass from the kitchen cabinet. "Are we really doing this?" he muttered. I nearly laughed. Or screamed. Or both. "Doing what?" I asked. "Mark, $23,000 is missing. You drained our savings without telling me. What else would we be doing right now?" He slammed the glass on the counter harder than necessary. "You're being dramatic." I stared at him like he had spoken in another language. Dramatic? "Mark, you secretly emptied almost half our savings and gave it to someone who doesn't want me to know. How is this not a big deal?" He rubbed his forehead like I was giving him a migraine. "I told you, it's for my mother." But the way he said it. Like a rehearsed line he didn't even believe anymore. I pressed again. "For what, Mark? What exactly does your mother need help with? Medical bills? Housing? Did something happen?" He paused, then said quietly. She needed help with some debts." Something in his tone felt off, like a door half opened but hiding a mess behind it. "What kind of debts?" He didn't answer. "Mark," I said softly, trying to keep my voice steady, "if she's in trouble, we can get her help. But draining our savings? Hiding it from me? That's not okay." He glared at me defensively. "You're acting like I stole it." I blinked. "You did." He scoffed again. "You're unbelievable. I knew you would react like this. This is why I didn't tell you." And then, with the arrogance of someone completely detached from accountability, he added, "She's my mother. I owe her." I shook my head. "You owe your marriage too." He didn't care. He grabbed his keys, muttered something about needing air, and walked out, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. I stood alone in our living room, staring at the door like it was going to offer answers. It didn't. I spent the next several hours spiraling. What kind of debt would require $23,000? Why would she hide it from me? Why would Mark lie so blatantly? What kind of mother would ask her married son to steal money from his household? Unless she wasn't ashamed. She wasn't hiding. This was normal for her. And Mark was enabling it. I decided to call her myself. I had her number saved as Linda, MIL, in my phone. I barely spoke to her. She was polite but always distant, always slightly cold. When she picked up, she sounded annoyed. Hello? Hi, Linda. It's Hannah. Silence. Oh. Hello, she finally said, voice flat. Can I ask you something? I said. Depends. I swallowed. Mark told me he's been sending you money. Long pause. Then. I don't know what you're talking about. My chest tightened. He said he's been helping you with debts. She snorted. Debts? What debts? I went cold. So that was a lie. A significant amount of money, I said carefully. I saw the transfers. She exhaled sharply. Then she said the sentence that flipped my entire world upside down. I haven't received a dime from him in over a year. I sat down. Hard. What? I whispered. I don't know what game he's playing, she continued, but whatever money you're talking about, it didn't come to me. The room spun. But, he told me. Hannah, she interrupted, I don't know anything about this. But I can tell you this much, if Mark is hiding something, he's been doing it for a long time. A cold wave washed over me. I thanked her and hung up. I sat still for a long time, staring at the wall, trying to process what I'd just learned. If the money wasn't going to his mother, then who? Or what? When Mark came home later, he acted like nothing had happened. He grabbed leftover lasagna from the fridge, sat on the couch, and turned on the TV. Did you eat? He asked casually, like we weren't in the middle of a crisis. I stood in front of the TV and said, I talked to your mother. He froze mid-bite. Slowly lowered the fork. What? She said she hasn't gotten any money from you. His face went pale. Then red. Then angry. He slammed the plate down so hard sauce splattered on the cushion. Why would you call her? I felt my voice rise despite trying to stay calm. Because you lied, Mark. Now tell me where the money went. His eyes darted around like he was searching for an escape route. Then he said something so ridiculous, so insulting, so outrageous, I honestly thought I misheard him. It's none of your business. I stared at him. Then laughed. A broken, half-hysterical laugh. Our joint savings is none of my business? He stood up. I'll fix it, he said. Just drop it. No, I said quietly. This ends now. Tell me where the money went. He looked at me with a mix of anger and panic. Then he grabbed his coat and keys. I'm not doing this, he snapped. And walked out again. That night, Mark didn't come home. His phone went straight to voicemail. And that's when a darker thought crept in, something I didn't want to believe. What if the money wasn't going to a person, but to a habit? A secret. An addiction. A life I didn't know he was living. I barely slept that night. Every time a car passed outside, I jolted awake thinking it was Mark coming home. He didn't. By morning, my anxiety had twisted into something heavier, fear mixed with clarity. I needed answers. I needed facts, not excuses or half-truths. So I started digging. Not out of paranoia. Out of necessity. I logged into our online banking again and searched for the mysterious account the money had been going to. The receiving account number wasn't fully shown, just the last 4 digits, 5916. I clicked everything I could, searching through linked accounts, external transfers, anything that could reveal where the money was going. Nothing. Whoever owned that account had it locked down tight. I checked Mark's credit cards next. My heart dropped again. There were transactions I didn't recognize. Not just a few. Hundreds. Dating back months. Sometimes multiple in a single day. Most were small, $30 here, $75 there, but many were larger. $480. $310. $600. $920. All to various usernames. All labeled with vague purchase codes. Digital. Anonymous. Non-refundable. And then I noticed the pattern. Every transaction was processed through the same payment platform, an online service known for protecting the identity of freelancers, creators, and private content providers. My stomach twisted. I clicked one of the vendor IDs. It led to nothing but a blank placeholder. But I already knew. I didn't want to believe it, but the truth was loud and ugly. Mark was paying women online. And a lot of them. Not one. Not two. Dozens. Consistently. Obsessively. Expensively. My heart hammered as I scrolled through the list of transactions. This wasn't casual. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't an occasional lapse. This was a habit. A hobby. A dependency. A secret life funded by our joint savings. He had been paying for private chats, custom content, subscriptions, explicit photos, one-on-one video calls. The descriptions weren't explicit, but the pattern was unmistakable. 8 months. 8 months of draining our savings for virtual women while I cooked dinner, paid bills, and believed he was working late. I needed air. I stepped outside and took a walk around the neighborhood, shaking, tears threatening to spill every time I blinked. When I got back, Mark was sitting at the kitchen table. He looked exhausted, disheveled hair, dark circles under his eyes, face pale. But not guilty. Just angry. "You left the house unlocked," he said coldly. "As usual." That was his first comment. Not "I'm sorry." Not "we need to talk." Not "this got out of control." Just another veil of blame. I dropped my bag on the floor and said, "We're not talking about the door, Mark." His jaw tightened. "You shouldn't have called my mother. And you shouldn't have stolen our savings." His eyes narrowed. "Stolen? Wow. So that's how you're going to frame it." I opened my laptop, pulled up the list of transactions, turned the screen toward him, and said, "Explain." He froze for a split second, just long enough for the truth to show on his face. Then he slapped the laptop shut so hard I jumped. "Where did you get that?" he demanded. "From our bank accounts. You had no right." I let out a hysterical laugh. "No right? Mark, it's our money. Our savings. Where did it go?" He ran both hands through his hair and paced aggressively. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" He didn't answer. So I pressed again, voice trembling. "Are you paying women online?" He went completely still. His silence was louder than any confession. My chest caved. "So it's true," I whispered. Mark slammed his hand on the table. "It's not cheating." I stared at him, numb. "It's not," he insisted. "It's not real. It's not like I slept with anyone." I swallowed the rising sickness. "You gave them our savings. They needed support," he said weakly. "Some of them were going through hard times and—" I choked out a laugh. "Hard times? Mark, we are going through hard times. You put us through it." He glared. "You don't understand, Hannah. It's complicated." "No," I said firmly. "It's selfish. And deceptive. And insane." He stepped closer, eyes cold and defensive. "You're overreacting. You always do." "No," I whispered. You just hate when I see the truth. He scoffed. It's not a big deal. It's just content. Just interactions. $23,000 worth of content, I shot back. His face flushed red. You're twisting this. No, I said again. You hid it. You lied about it. You drained our savings behind my back. You manipulated me. You weaponized your mother as an excuse. And now you're standing here pretending you're the victim. He clenched his fists. I can fix it. No, I said quietly. You can't. He stared at me, a long, cold stare, the kind that's empty and calculating. Then he said, I said I'll fix it. And you will get over it. And then something inside me snapped. Something deep. Something quiet. Something final. No, Mark, I said, voice steady despite the tears spilling down my cheeks. I won't. I picked up my bag and walked out the front door. He didn't follow. He didn't call my name. He didn't apologize. He just let me go, like a man who had already made his choice a long time ago. When I left the house, I didn't know where to go. I didn't want to show up on my sister's doorstep in the middle of another breakdown. I didn't want my parents asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. So I drove. Aimlessly. Block after block through quiet Denver neighborhoods, past lit porches and shadowed trees, until my hands stopped shaking enough for me to think. Eventually, I pulled into a 24-hour grocery store parking lot. I sat there in the dark car, engine off, forehead pressed to the steering wheel, letting everything crash at once. The missing money. The lies. His mother knowing nothing. The secret payments. The online women. The defensiveness. The refusal to apologize. The coldness. The way he looked at me like I was an obstacle, not a partner. My marriage was over. Not because of content. Not because of supportive payments. Not because of stress. Because Mark had chosen secrecy, entitlement, and addiction over honesty. Because he treated me like an inconvenience. Because he decided I didn't deserve the truth. I cried until my throat hurt. Then I called the only person I knew would answer no matter the hour. My best friend, Kayla. She picked up on the first ring. Are you safe? She asked immediately. I couldn't speak. I just sobbed. She told me to come to her apartment right away. She met me in the parking lot with a hoodie, tissues, and a hug that felt like someone lifting a collapsing building off my chest. I stayed at her place that night. The next morning, after a few sips of coffee that felt like they barely reached my bloodstream, I did something I never thought I would do. I called a lawyer. Her name was Amy Sullivan, recommended by a coworker who had gone through a messy divorce the previous year. Amy's voice was calm, professional, and firm. Tell me everything, she said. And I did. I told her about the missing money. The lies. The secret account. His mother denying everything. The online transactions. The refusal to explain. The verbal manipulation. The way he blamed me. I didn't sugarcoat any of it. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then Amy said, Hannah, you are dealing with financial betrayal, emotional manipulation, and a pattern of deceit that qualifies as marital misconduct. You have every legal right to pursue divorce, reimbursement claims, and asset protection. Hearing it put into professional terms made my chest tighten. What should I do? I asked quietly. She didn't hesitate. Don't go back home alone. Don't confront him again. And don't give him access to any of your accounts. I'll file the petition. You start documenting everything. After the call, Kayla squeezed my hand. You're doing the right thing, she said. Maybe. But it still hurt. Over the next few days, Mark's messages escalated. At first, please come home. We can fix this. Then, You're being dramatic. Stop blowing this up. Then anger. I didn't do anything wrong. You're insane if you think this is a reason to leave. And finally, if you divorce me, I'll make sure you get nothing. Kayla blocked him on my phone. Amy advised me to keep evidence of every threat. 3 days after filing, Mark was served at his job. He showed up at Kayla's apartment that evening, pounding on the door so hard the neighbors peeked out. I didn't answer. I sat frozen on the couch while Kayla called security. Through the door he yelled, "You're ruining everything. We can work this out. And then? You owe me a chance to explain." But he'd had countless chances. And he chose to lie every single time. Security escorted him out. I watched from the window. His face full of fury. Not heartbreak. Not regret. Fury. That told me everything I needed to know. The next week was a blur of paperwork, meetings, banking changes, and emotional exhaustion. I found an apartment. Amy helped freeze accounts and track transfers. Kayla helped me move my things. Mark fought everything. Every item. Every cent. Every detail. Not because he wanted me, but because he wanted control. Amy kept reminding me. He's reacting this way because he lost his power. You took it back. It didn't make it easier, but it made it clearer. 2 months later, the divorce was finalized. Amy negotiated for me to be reimbursed for half the missing savings, and she secured a clause preventing Mark from accessing any joint accounts or dragging the process out further. The judge read his online transaction history and frowned so hard I thought her face might collapse. Mark tried to argue. It wasn't cheating. The judge responded. It was a breach of trust, a misuse of marital assets, and a violation of your financial obligations. Whether you call it cheating or not is irrelevant. He shut up. When it was over, I walked out of the courthouse and sat on the steps, feeling the cold spring sunlight on my skin. Kayla hugged me. You're free, she whispered. I didn't feel triumphant. Or vindicated. Or even angry. I felt empty. But in a peaceful way. Like a room that had finally been cleared of broken furniture. Like space waiting to be rebuilt. Over the next few weeks, I rediscovered small joys. Cooking meals I liked. Sleeping through the night. Not bracing for confrontation. Not feeling guilty over nothing. Laughing without flinching. Listening to music loudly. Sitting on the couch without tension. Checking my bank account without dread. I realized something profound. I had been living in survival mode for years without knowing it. Mark's secret habit didn't break our marriage. It revealed what was already broken. The lies. The entitlement. The unwillingness to communicate. The comfort with hiding things. The way he treated me like a backdrop instead of a partner. He didn't lose me because of what he spent the money on. He lost me because he believed I didn't deserve the truth. And now? I am rebuilding a life that is mine again. With boundaries. With confidence. With peace. With self-respect. With financial safety. With freedom. I don't know what my future holds. But I know this. I'd rather be alone than be with someone who sees me as a wallet, a nuisance, or an obstacle. I'd rather protect my heart than beg someone to protect it for me. And I'd rather build a new life than ever shrink myself to fit inside someone else's secrets again.